The moment you stop taking creatine, something subtle yet profound begins to unfold beneath the surface, long before you notice anything in your training or daily energy. It's as if your body begins reversing a carefully built adaptation, initiating a biochemical transition that quietly dismantles what took weeks to establish. Most people assume stopping creatine means immediately losing strength, yet the initial changes are far more intricate than simple muscle loss. These changes represent a gradual return to baseline, where your body recalibrates to function without supplemental support. As creatine leaves your system, your cells begin releasing stored reserves like a battery slowly depleting its charge. This process is methodical, not chaotic. Your muscles gradually return to their natural creatine levels, the levels your body maintains through diet and internal synthesis alone. Interestingly, this decline isn't instantaneous because creatine has been deeply integrated into your cellular infrastructure. During the first few days without supplementation, your body begins adjusting water distribution within muscle cells. The intracellular hydration that supported enhanced performance starts normalizing, and this shift often explains why some people notice a slight decrease in muscle fullness. It's not muscle tissue disappearing, it's water reallocating as your cells adapt to lower creatine availability. And here's where understanding deepens. Even though you might not feel significantly different yet, the foundation for energy production, strength, and endurance begins shifting back toward your body's natural baseline. This is why scientists often emphasize that creatine's effects fade gradually, not overnight. And yes, later in this video, you'll understand exactly why those first few days matter more than you might expect. Inside each muscle cell, those tiny energy powerhouses called mitochondria begin operating differently once creatine stores start declining. Remember how mitochondria act like miniature engines, determining your body's energy output at any given moment? When creatine becomes less available, these engines lose some of their enhanced readiness, meaning they respond slightly slower to sudden energy demands. It's like returning a finely tuned car engine back to factory settings. You haven't damaged anything, but you've removed the optimization that made everything run smoother. This internal recalibration happens quietly and progressively. There's no dramatic crash like when caffeine wears off. Instead, your body simply becomes less capable in the background, returning to its natural state. Studies show that this phase leads to reduced energy buffering, meaning your cells handle highs and lows of exertion with slightly less efficiency than before. Over time, this reduced efficiency becomes noticeable in real-world performance. You might tire slightly faster, recover less completely, and find it harder to maintain peak intensity. Another crucial aspect is that creatine no longer acts as that immediate energy reserve. When your body experiences sudden demands for explosive power, it must now rely more heavily on slower metabolic pathways that fatigue more quickly. This is why even short bursts of activity might start feeling different after you've stopped supplementing for several weeks. Your cells are no longer operating with that enhanced preparation. But here's the detail most people never consider. This cellular recalibration doesn't just affect athletes. Even daily tasks, carrying groceries, climbing stairs, maintaining focus during long meetings, might feel subtly more demanding once your enhanced energy reserves diminish. At the heart of what happens when you stop creatine lies that crucial molecule called ATP, adenosine triphosphate. Remember, ATP is your body's ultimate energy currency, powering every movement, thought, and heartbeat. But ATP depletes within seconds, which is why rapid regeneration matters so critically. Without supplemental creatine, your body loses its enhanced ability to recycle ATP quickly. When creatine levels drop, the phosphate donation system that rapidly reforms ATP becomes less efficient. This means your muscles can't sustain powerful contractions quite as long, and recovery between intense efforts slows down slightly. The beauty of this system is that it's reversible, but the transition takes time. Your body doesn't immediately forget how to produce energy. It simply loses the supplemental advantage that made everything more efficient. What makes this transition even more significant is that ATP reduction doesn't only impact physical movement. It also affects brain signaling, memory processing, and overall cognitive sharpness. When creatine supplementation stops, those cognitive benefits begin fading as well, though this connection still surprises many people. As you continue through this video, you'll notice how ATP keeps appearing as the common thread. Understanding ATP is like holding the key to everything that changes when creatine leaves your system. When people stop taking creatine, many immediately worry about losing all their muscle gains. But the actual changes are far more nuanced and scientifically grounded than sudden deflation. As creatine depletes from muscle tissue, the enhanced cellular hydration gradually normalizes. This can create a visual change where muscles appear slightly less full. But it's crucial to understand that this isn't actual muscle tissue loss, it's water redistribution. The muscle fibers you built through training remain intact. What does change is the environment within those muscle cells. With reduced creatine, cells lose some of their enhanced capacity to activate growth pathways efficiently. This means protein synthesis might become slightly less responsive, though it doesn't stop entirely. Your muscles can still adapt and grow from training. They just lose the extra efficiency boost that creatine provided. Over several weeks, without supplementation, you might notice a gradual reduction in your ability to generate maximum force during explosive movements. This isn't about losing actual muscle tissue. It's about losing the enhanced energy availability that allowed those muscles to perform at their peak. And there's an interesting twist here. Performance changes often become noticeable before any visible changes occur. You might feel slightly weaker in the gym within 2 to 4 weeks, even if the mirror shows minimal difference. Function declines before appearance changes, and this reverses the sequence you experienced when you first started supplementing. What many people don't realize is that your brain also feels the impact when creatine supplementation stops. Since your brain is one of the most energy-hungry organs, consuming tremendous amounts of ATP, the loss of enhanced creatine stores means neurons lose some of their optimized fuel access. This can lead to subtle but measurable declines in mental clarity and cognitive endurance. Research shows that people who experienced cognitive benefits while supplementing creatine may notice those improvements gradually fade over weeks. Working memory might feel slightly less sharp, reaction times could slow marginally, and resistance to mental fatigue might decrease. These changes are often subtle enough that many people don't consciously connect them to stopping creatine. Another fascinating detail is that vegetarians and vegans who stopped supplementing might notice stronger cognitive declines because their natural baseline was lower to begin with. Their brains had adapted more dramatically to the supplemented levels, so returning to baseline creates a more noticeable shift. This highlights how creatine's impact reaches far beyond muscles, affecting fundamental brain processes that support daily mental performance. Before we continue, let me know in the comments, did you ever notice mental changes after stopping creatine? Or did you only track physical performance? Your experience could help others understand creatine's broader effects. As weeks pass without creatine supplementation, your brain gradually returns to a less energy-efficient state. Instead of maintaining that steadier ATP supply that made mental tasks feel smoother, your neurons become more dependent on glucose fluctuations again. This isn't dangerous or harmful. It's simply a return to how your brain operated before supplementation. Long-term studies indicate that the cognitive benefits creatine provides, enhanced working memory, attention, and mental fatigue resistance, begin reversing within 4 to 6 weeks of stopping. The speed of this reversal depends on individual factors like diet, stress levels, and natural creatine production. Interestingly, people under chronic sleep deprivation or high cognitive stress might notice the loss of creatine's protective effects more acutely. When your brain loses that extra energy buffer, Tasks that felt manageable during supplementation might become more mentally demanding. Many people worry about water retention when taking creatine, but what happens when that intracellular hydration normalizes after stopping? The water stored inside muscle cells gradually releases, and this can create a noticeable but temporary change in how muscles look and feel. Some people describe their muscles as feeling slightly flatter or less pumped, which is exactly what you'd expect when intracellular water decreases. This shift happens gradually over 2 to 4 weeks as your muscle cells adjust to lower creatine levels. It's important to understand that this isn't muscle loss in the traditional sense. The muscle fibers themselves remain intact, but they lose that enhanced cellular environment that supported optimal performance. The water redistribution is your body's way of returning to its natural baseline, not a sign of deterioration. Strength changes after stopping creatine stem primarily from reduced energy availability rather than actual muscle tissue loss. As ATP regeneration becomes less efficient, your muscles lose some capacity to contract with maximum force and sustain that force across multiple repetitions. This gives you reduced capacity for heavy lifts, slower sprints, and decreased power output during high-intensity intervals. Studies consistently show that people who stop taking creatine experience gradual declines in maximal strength performance, particularly in exercises requiring explosive power. These declines typically become noticeable between 2 and 6 weeks after stopping, depending on training intensity and individual physiology. The interesting part is that your nervous system also adjusts. Without the enhanced energy availability, muscle fiber recruitment becomes slightly less efficient, and coordination during peak efforts might feel subtly different. However, the actual muscle tissue remains, meaning you can maintain most of your gains through continued training, even without supplementation. When you stop taking creatine, your body reverses several key metabolic adaptations that made high-intensity training feel more sustainable. With less efficient ATP recycling, your muscles must rely more heavily on energy pathways that produce fatigue-inducing byproducts more quickly. This means hydrogen ions and ammonia accumulate faster during intense efforts, contributing to that burning sensation and forcing earlier fatigue. Another metabolic shift involves glycogen utilization. Without creatine's rapid energy provision during explosive movements, your body taps into glycogen reserves more heavily and earlier in your training sessions. This can translate to feeling more depleted during workouts, and potentially experiencing reduced endurance over longer training sessions. These combined metabolic adjustments mean that training might feel more challenging, cellular stress during intense efforts increases, and recovery between sets takes slightly longer. This is one reason why creatine has remained so valuable. It fundamentally optimizes how your body manages energy during challenging physical demands. Recovery patterns also change when you stop supplementing creatine, because your muscles lose some of their enhanced ATP regeneration capacity. After demanding workouts, muscle fibers still require significant energy to rebuild proteins, restore cellular membranes, and reduce inflammation. With reduced creatine stores, these repair processes operate slightly less efficiently, potentially extending the time your body needs between intense training sessions. The buffering of metabolic byproducts also becomes less effective. Without creatine helping manage hydrogen ions and ammonia during exercise, these substances linger longer in muscle tissue, potentially contributing to prolonged soreness and delayed recovery. This doesn't mean recovery stops. It simply means the process may take longer to reach completion. Additionally, the reduced intracellular hydration affects nutrient transport and cellular stability. Well-hydrated muscle cells repair more effectively and maintain better internal structure. So, when that hydration normalizes, recovery might feel slightly less robust. Over time, this can mean that training sessions feel more taxing and require more recovery days between intense workouts. While creatine is best known as a performance supplement, stopping it reveals benefits that extend beyond athletic performance. Research exploring creatine's role in healthy aging has shown that supplementation helps preserve muscle mass and functional strength in older adults. When someone stops taking creatine, they potentially lose this protective effect, which matters especially as muscle loss naturally accelerates with age. There's also evidence suggesting creatine supports metabolic health through improved cellular energy availability. Better glucose handling and reduced fatigue in individuals with demanding routines can diminish when supplementation stops. Some clinical research has even examined creatine's potential protective role in neurological conditions, demonstrating how deeply it connects with cellular vitality beyond muscle tissue. These broader benefits remind us that when you stop creatine, you're not just impacting gym performance, you're potentially affecting fundamental biological support systems. When cells lose access to efficient energy recycling, everything from physical capacity to daily wellness may subtly shift back toward baseline. Despite decades of research supporting creatine's safety and effectiveness, misconceptions about stopping supplementation persist. One common myth is that stopping creatine causes rapid muscle loss or complete strength collapse. In reality, actual muscle tissue remains intact, and strength declines gradually over weeks, not overnight. What changes is energy availability, not the muscles themselves. Another misconception involves dependency. Some people worry that taking creatine makes their body dependent on it, or that natural production permanently decreases. Research shows this isn't true. Your body's natural creatine synthesis resumes normally after stopping supplementation. There's no permanent shutdown of your body's ability to produce creatine on its own. Some also believe that stopping creatine causes immediate bloating or water weight gain, but the opposite actually occurs. When you stop, intracellular water decreases, often leading to a slight drop in body weight, not an increase. Understanding what actually happens versus what people fear helps make informed decisions about creatine supplementation. When creatine supplementation ends and becomes more than just a temporary break, your body settles into a stable baseline that reflects your natural creatine levels from diet and internal synthesis. Muscle creatine stores return to their pre-supplementation levels, typically within 4 to 6 weeks. This means your training environment shifts from one of enhanced energy availability back to normal physiological function. Long-term absence of supplementation also means cognitive benefits gradually disappear. The brain returns to relying more heavily on glucose for ATP production, and the mental clarity or endurance improvements people experienced while supplementing fade away. This is particularly relevant for individuals who valued creatine not just for physical performance, but also for cognitive support during demanding mental work. Importantly, research shows that extended periods without creatine don't cause any harm to healthy individuals. Your body simply returns to functioning the way it did before you ever started supplementing. The transition is gradual, predictable, and completely reversible if you choose to resume supplementation in the future. Stopping daily creatine reveals just how comprehensive its benefits truly are. Enhanced strength and energy availability, improved recovery, meaningful cognitive support, and better cellular function all gradually return to baseline. These changes don't happen overnight, but unfold over weeks as your body readjusts to its natural state. The science documenting what happens when you stop creatine is remarkably consistent across hundreds of studies. Unlike supplements with bold claims but questionable evidence, creatine's reputation endures because the data continuously reinforces its value. Understanding both what you gain while taking it and what you lose when you stop helps you make informed decisions about long-term supplementation. If you've reached this point in the video, tell us in the comments. Have you ever stopped taking creatine and noticed these changes yourself? Your real-world experience could provide valuable insight for others considering whether to continue supplementing.